Hello and welcome. Well, will the Indian economy come back to the 9% growth level that many of us are thinking about, or perhaps even dreaming about? Well, that's been a subject of discussion which has gathered some intensity after the Union Budget 2013 was presented in Parliament by the Finance Minister. Well, let me pose that question to Ninan, Chairman of Business Standard and well-known columnist in Business Standard. Mr. Ninan, thank you very much for joining us. You know, a lot of people I've interviewed, for instance, felt that in the last 4 months there have been a stirring of sorts in the government. Things have begun moving, decisions are being taken, and the Union Budget maybe added to that, or perhaps it did not. I'm not very sure, and I guess most people are not. What is your own sense? I mean, you know, we've slipped back, we're at 5%. Are we in that path to getting back to a more sort of robust economy?
The short answer to that is yes, but it is a long haul. We spent a lot of time building up the problem, so you can't wish it away overnight. It'll take time to get rid of it. With the factors that we have an economy that has serious macroeconomic imbalances, you have to get those right, and it can't be done in 6 months. It can't even be done in 1 year. It'll take 2 or 3 years for the fiscal situation to be set right. It might take at least as much to get the trade imbalance back on track, and inflation too will take the best part of 2013, I would think. So you first need to get that done before you can talk of accelerating growth. And getting back to 8 and 9%, in my view, is a long way off.
Right. So the larger question then is the current government doing the right things today which point to that path? And is there sufficient determination?
They have shown some determination on the fiscal issue, and they are doing the correction on some of the subsidies, not all, but some, and it is substantial. They have done some compression of expenditure. They have shown a willingness to raise some taxes. So yes, there is clearly some intent to set the fiscal position right. I don't think they have a solution yet to the trade problem, where the current account deficit is more than 5% of GDP. It has to come down by at least half for us to be safe. Until then, we have to keep the external resources flowing into India, portfolio money, FDI, and so on. It is a bit of a tricky stage, and I don't see enough action yet to say that they are on top of it. I think we need to see more action.
So what about the domestic market, whether it's the output or the consumption of it? I mean, the numbers are getting scarier by the day. I mean, if you look at automobiles.
Yeah, I frankly don't understand why people keep saying that the worst is over, the economy is bottomed out, and it's now going to get better, because I don't see it. You see the latest automobile sales numbers, they're a disaster. It tells you very strongly about customer willingness to spend. The industrial production numbers are 2.5%. Your export numbers are single digit, low single digit. These are not signs of recovery. I don't understand why people think that the worst is over. That it may not be over. We still have a long way to go.
So what should we be looking out or trying to do to fix that part of the problem?
Frankly, the first thing to do is to get the macroeconomic balance right. Everybody is focusing and saying, how can we get back growth? But you can't get back growth if the economy is not on even keel. You have to get your trade figures right. You know, some of it can be import substitution. Today you're importing a lot of coal. Can you improve coal domestic production? And what do you need to do on that? So some of the growth will help you control your current account deficit. Can you produce more domestic gas instead of having to import some other form of fuel? So there are import substitution areas. There are export growth areas where you can say, why are textile exports not growing? Why are gem and jewelry hit? Or whatever sector is a problem. So you need to be, I think, sector specific in your approach to dealing with the current account problem, which will partly address the growth problem. And only then really look at a big jump in savings and investment and everybody powering ahead. That's a long way off, and we shouldn't really confuse the two. There has to be a sequence.
Yeah. So then let me ask you the sort of the attitude or the outlook kind of thing. I mean, did we take growth completely for granted?
Of course.
And we are paying the price for it?
Yeah. Well, We must also remember that the world as a whole has slowed down. All economies have slowed down, without exception. China was growing at 12%, is now down to 7.5%. We were growing at 9.5%, we're down to 5%. Other economies that are growing at 6% are down to 2%. The developed economies that are growing at 3 and 4% are minus or 0. So there is an overall slowing down, and you can't get export growth in that market. You know, there are obvious problems with it. So part of it is a global wave, and you shouldn't expect to see India not being affected. It will be affected. But we have also committed various serious internal mistakes. I think there was gross fiscal mismanagement. I think our monetary and currency policy have been offline. Those have to be corrected.
And do you see, you know, I mean, the other problem, really, maybe the third leg is really all the projects and particularly in infrastructure, which have been stuck. And
absolutely. But you know, yeah, you need the infrastructure is good and bad story. I mean, telecom has been a success, but now you're getting into some serious problems about where to go next with it. You have some issues on the roads project where I think companies are not making money, they're pulling out of projects. There are some issues there. Power is really a fuel problem. If you can get the gas production going, and if you can get more domestic production of coal going, you would have dealt with the power problem, because the power capacity now exists. It's been built. You've built, what, close to 60,000 megawatts of power capacity in 3 years. It's unprecedented. It would have taken 15 years earlier to do that, so you've done it in 3. So the power capacity has been built, people have invested in power capacity, so you need the fuel. So, you know, you need to address these. It's a managerial issue rather than, I mean, there is the macroeconomic management problem on the economic side, but there is a serious managerial issue as well. And, you know, people like Scindia as Minister for Power, they're focused on the managerial problems, so hopefully they'll get resolved.
So that's really my last question. I mean, you know, so you started by saying you're optimistic, and then you said here are the reasons why it's not going to happen in a hurry, and then your last point was that it's a managerial problem. So does this government, with elections coming up, have that managerial bandwidth intrinsically or otherwise to, you know, to hold on to these sort of the fixing of these problems and then do it?
Well, yes and no. Some ministers are delivering, others are not. You know, there are lots of challenges. There will be challenges in the economy at $1,500 per capita income. The question is how well are you meeting those challenges, and it is a bit of some parts good, some parts not so good. I would say that if we can get to 5.5 or 6% growth next year and improve our external account as well as a fiscal balance and bring down inflation, then you'll be in better shape a year from now to look a little further ahead. Right now, it has to be managing the short term.
Ninan, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Govind.